All right. Good morning. Scott Luton and Jamin with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to the Buzz. Jamin, how you doing?
Good. How you doing? Happy to be here.
We are ecstatic to have you as a guest host here today on the Buzz, Jamin, as you know, you've been a part of these plenty. We tackle some of the leading developments across the world of global supply chain. And Jamin, before we get too far, folks are used to seeing Greg White's smiling face here. So we had to do that. So Greg, who's on a big journey of his own, doing a little bit of sailing, doing some traveling, we've got a quick snapshot from Greg's travels, right?
Yeah, that is so cool what he's out doing.
Let's see it. There we go. Now, that is a Greg White hello from the road, isn't it?
That is on brand.
On brand. Well put. So we look forward to having Greg back in and getting lots of updates from as he is sailing, learning how to sail and practicing his technique. So Greg, safe travels to you. All right, real quick, want to say hello to Nick. Man, Nick has been really laying it out in social media. I love, yesterday, I think it was, he posted something about gratitude and really being grateful, very deliberately grateful. And it was such a neat stuff. So, Nick, great to have you here. Of course, Jeff Miller. Jeff, supply chain is the business. Miller, Jamin, right? Can't have a buzz without him. Michael, is it Neem or Nemi?
Nemi.
Okay. And we've got an upcoming episode, Jamin, you're going to be publishing with Michael, right?
Yeah, it was fantastic. As always on the podcast, I learn a lot from the guests, but I also learned a lot, not just about the industry, but Mike shows us his heart, and it's fantastic.
It really is. We've seen a couple of snippets, and we've heard a little bit about some of what was discussed, and just really good stuff. So look forward to that episode. Hey, Joe Moretta. Memory, yes, I am back, and we're about halfway through the repairs, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate your message you shared last week. Daria, great to have you here, and we've got, so folks, not only are we going to tackle 4 of the stories that need to be on your radar this week in supply chain, but we have got a big friend of the show, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, with Let's Talk Supply Chain and Ships is with us, going to be popping in about 12:20, right, Jamin?
Yes, very excited about that. I'm a huge Sarah fan.
We are too. So we look forward to getting some of her thoughts. But quick programming note before we get started, Jamin. If our audience enjoys this live stream, hey, check out our podcast wherever you get your podcast from. The R and your I had that flipped there, Jamin. But check it out and subscribe so you don't miss a single thing. All right. So Jamin, are we ready to dive into our first news story here today?
Let's do it.
All right. Hey, before we do, I got a question for you. So What is you're a regular contributor here for the Buzz and with live streams, now logistics and beyond. What's your favorite thing about these live streams in particular?
I say that's easy. The audience, the comments and all that. I love sitting in the I always refer to as the cheap seats. And I mean that in the best way, because that is truly the best place to be in. It is amazing how much I'll learn. Clearly, you learn a lot through the different guests and the things that you and Greg and whoever's on the show are sharing. But what's going on in the comments and people's perspective from a worldwide perspective. I mean, we have memory from South Africa, and then we have folks from stateside. We're gonna have Sarah on later from Canada, and so I think that cannot be valued enough of that worldwide, that global perspective and education that you can get in just a short period of time through some comments. I love it.
Well put. Very well put. Sylvia Judy, who I believe is still actually she is back from Germany in Charleston. So Sylvia, great to have you here. Lisa Kinski, hello. Zane Wolford, Brad Gillette. Hey, everybody's jumping right in on this Monday. So with all that said, and Jamin, I appreciate your perspective. Let's dive right in. All right. So on this first story, Jamin, I love the image, by the way. I love it took me straight to the best ketchup in the world, which in my book is still Heinz ketchup. But the number one trending story over at Supply Chain Dive is this Emma Cosgrove piece. It centers on the continued efforts by Kraft Heinz to transform the organization. So they're standing up an ops center. That's what they're calling it. ops center, not too unique of a term,
Yeah.
that will join together functional aspects of their supply chain and put it all under one roof. So, Jamin, they're putting procurement, production, distribution, R&D, marketing even, all part of this new ops center. It is projected to save the company some $2 billion, billion, B as in Bezos, over the next 5 years. Holy cow. Also part of the project, Jamin, SKU reduction. So if we've heard that once, we've heard it a million times here in 2020. The article says Kraft Heinz has already reduced their SKUs by 20% just in the last few months. So I love this here. When CEO Miguel Patricio took over the organization in July 2019, he said that supply chain would be at the heart of the turnaround. He was also quoted as saying, get this, quote, integrated business planning is not new to the world, but it is new to Kraft Heinz, end quote. So, Jamin, I love big, bold moves by new leadership, right? And
Absolutely.
This certainly is big and bold, but it's good to break down these silos that every organization builds up and get folks talking across the functional areas, right?
Yeah, and I think what's so great about that, and you say this often, is supply chain has a seat at the table now. And it not only a seat at the table, but this entire strategy is pivoting on supply chain and the need to go forward with some simplicity and speed. And so I think they're headed down the right path.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am with you. So we'll see how this turns out. Clearly, what I love about Miguel Patricio is he did not come to protect the status quo and business as usual. So making some big moves over at Kraft Heinz. All right. So in our second story, Jamin, we're going to be talking about FedEx is gaining even more visibility on their freight. So tell us more.
Yeah, I thought this was so neat because it just shows how important visibility and not just visibility, but real time visibility and tracking is on all fronts. And the application to this is how it can really help in the pharmaceutical and forward looking into some type of COVID relief or COVID medicines. And the slogan, I really love it. No more, no now. So this little device, the packages they put it with, it's pinged every 2 seconds. So you're as up to date as 2 seconds. And it's just amazing how much more we as a consumer are demanding and getting used to, frankly, this type of real-time visibility. And very short story, when I was preparing for this and reading this article, I'm thinking of it with pharmaceuticals in a business application. Meanwhile, as goes on probably in most households every 1 to 2 weeks, families arguing about where to order a pizza from. And, we have the options of a national chain, or there's some, local place that frankly just tastes better.
Yep.
But my kids are just advocating for the national chain because, and they're deadly serious with this. They are fascinated with ordering it. And then they actually like to see the name of the person putting the toppings on, the name of the person putting the pie in the oven, and then the name of the person coming to deliver. And they watch that, 30-minute ramp up until the doorbell rings. And that's just where their mindset's at. And you know what? I don't think, even though I tell them they're unique, I don't think they're unique in this.
I'm with you. I love that. And I also love how your kids, they are letting their preferences be known, right? They're owning the consumer choice. So
yes, it's all around visibility.
That's right. Give the people what they want, right? A couple quick comments here. So Aaron shares, hey, this is definitely the kind of real-world data sensor that will be crucial to integrating effective blockchain solutions for product integrity. Well said, Aaron. Now, we can't talk FedEx without our great friend of the show, Tevin Taylor, who's one of the world's best interviews, by the way. Tevin, who's with FedEx, a little disclaimer there. We are starting with first overnight shipments, but think of the application of seeing all inventory in motion and knowing how to adjust when needed for disruptions in the supply chain. Jamin.
That's huge. I mean, just like we were talking with what Kraft Heinz is implementing and so many others. Tim Judge, I know you've talked with him a lot about this. It is all about in motion, real time pivots, speed, and agility. That's the name of the game right now.
That's right. Sophia, who also does a great interview, we're going to be releasing an interview that she did with us here in the next week or so. She shares these sensors are going to be used for vaccine distribution, already confirmed. Excellent. That is a great insider tip from Sophia and from Tevin, for that matter. One more comment here from AA in the air capital of the world, Wichita, Kansas. Professor Mohib, FedEx could be a front runner in blockchain popularization and bring more authenticity to legit supply chain. Sorry, Professor Mohib, I've got to get another cup of coffee interpreting some of these comments, but well said as always. AA, great to have you here, part of the buzz. And you're right. I think blockchain has come so far, right? It's taken some time, but now we're seeing wholesale adaptation of the technology that will make it more practical to so many people, right, Jamin?
Absolutely. I think we're finding very real and practical cases to now implement what we've vetted to be a great technology or resource. Start leveraging it.
So clearly this story, courtesy of our friends over at Freight Waves, has gotten a lot of juices flowing here. So let's keep driving those. In this third story, we're going to be talking about the bots are still coming, Jamin. Is that right?
They are, but this is a positive version of that, not a Terminator, very scary form. And that's what I loved about this story. I think probably many of us have seen, and I believe the robot's name is Atlas. Boston Dynamics has developed this cool / kind of scary robot. I think it's made its way through social media. It's jumping on boxes. It's rolling around. And just very agile. And that's one of their applications. And they mentioned that the new CEO mentioned that brings in the talent. That gets people's attention. But they have these other technologies, these other robots they're working on that they now are saying are ready to be, I was going to say unleashed, but that's such like a daunting term, to be offered to the world. And the application they're targeting first is logistics. As they were developing these robots, they were more focused on the technology and the development, not a specific application or industry, which I thought was interesting. And hey, all of a sudden, supply chain is sexy. It's front and center. And so even the robots want a seat at this table, right?
Jamin, love it. Love it.
So I just thought it was great. The CEO mentioned even that now we as frontline workers are understanding, hey, robots don't necessarily have to replace me. They could be my proxy on the front lines. And so they are looking at ways to work in tandem with people and have software where different technologies and robots are working in tandem as well. And so they got some big announcements coming up, and they really expect some very real frontline applications in 2021, 2022. So I think that's very exciting. And I really thought the CEO had a very level-headed, real-world way to look at it. He even spoke of robots with some empathy in the sense of how we as workers could be a little, maybe worried or, as it were, that we're going to be replaced. But I just thought he had a real great look at it.
Well, in recent conversations I've had with some of the leading technology executives, it's their technology. A lot of these technologies are going to be actually empowering people, right? Now, if you like, as we talk about a lot, we talked about it with you, Jamin, and Greg, and Sarah, and the whole gang. If you like doing the same thing, hour in, hour out, 40 hours a clip. I mean, that's you've got to learn, be willing to learn some new things, but really, new technologies, bots, automation really is going to open up so many doors for so many folks. All right, so we've got some great comments here I want to share before we move on to our final story, and then before we move on to bringing Sarah on. But love the story, Jamin. So Kevin L. Jackson, one of the leading influencers for digital transformation, is with us. And he He echoes what we're saying. Blockchain and 5G game changers. Believe the hype. So, Kevin, looking forward to some of our collaborative work we've got coming up here real soon, and hope you're having a good morning. Let's see. Nick says adaptability is key in future strategies for any organization. The quicker someone can adjust, the longer the longer the life of this company's strategy for sure. Well put, Nick. And then Brad shares, let me take this out real quick. All right. So Brad shares, robots present a perceived threat to people's jobs, which should not be the case. People are great at certain things and robots are great at certain things. The key is to find the right mix of robot tasks and people tasks to maximize the overall system. Robots and automation shouldn't replace, they should enhance. I like that.
Yeah.
In addition, it's hard to find labor in many markets. So as demand continues to increase, robots will enable more throughout with the same labor. Brad, you are bringing it, and we completely agree with you, right, Jamin?
Yeah, Brad's a person that gets it.
Yeah, well put. And one final thing here, Jamin, you're starting yet another trend. Supply chain is sexy, evidently, is a new hashtag.
Yes.
All right, so let's wrap up with a comeback story. Everyone likes a good comeback story, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so do you remember, Jamin and audience, the tough times that Denny's faced back in the early 1990s? So not only at the time were customers complaining of racial discrimination in their restaurants, but there were allegations of systemic discrimination in the corporate culture. So a double deadly duo there. It all resulted in a $54.4 million settlement. But here's good news. Denny's current director of supplier diversity, Michelle Hunt, called that period as, quote, a shameful moment in our history, end quote. So current leadership, the current leadership team has gotten to work. In the last 25 years, they've made supplier diversity a pillar of the company's newfound commitment to diversity, equality, and inclusion. And that commitment has been a big part of the company's turnaround efforts. So turnaround and transformation is going to be the theme of the day, I think, here, Jamin. Denny's has spent over $2 billion with diverse and disadvantaged suppliers since the supplier diversity program was launched in 1993. In 2019, Hunt, again, Michelle Hunt is their director of supplier diversity. She said that 14% of Denny's purchases were with what the company deemed diverse and disadvantaged businesses. So, Jamin, that sounds like a pretty good story. They've come a long way very intentionally since the early 90s, right?
Yeah, and I like how you said that very intentionally. I appreciated they didn't try to pretend like it wasn't a part of their history. It didn't happen. It wasn't bad. They addressed it head on and very honestly, and I think that's the right approach.
Yeah, agreed. All right, a couple quick comments here. Gary Smith, and supply chain legend, Apex Hall of Famer, says resilience plus agility equals adaptability.
Oh, love
this
it.
is the new paradigm. Well said, Gary. Let's see. On the heels of Truck Driver Appreciation Week, Josue Ramos is with us. So good morning. Yeah. Great to have you back with us here. And let's see. So Pratish, you asked about you asked a really interesting question well back in the comments, and we can't dive into all this today because we're about to bring on our featured guest here. But I would challenge the folks in the comments to address a great question that he asked. So can you tell how supply chain should transform in the near future to conquer this pandemic? I mean, that's front and center for just about every business leader out there, right, Jamin?
Fantastic question, a fun question. And I think even seeing the, FedEx, the timing of announcing SenseAware ID shows that, we in supply chain are starting to jockey for position, get ready, and try to test things out as we ramp up to that. But, oh, man, what a fun and a diverse topic.
Yep. Great question, Pratish. So feel free, comment. We'd love the audience to weigh in on that, and maybe we can make that a topic of a future live stream. I know that Tim Ingram, I believe is his last name, who usually joins us for these live streams, he's been wanting us to talk about healthcare, supply chain and healthcare, and we'll definitely have to make that one of our future episodes. All right. So, Jamin, So much good stuff. Those are just 4 of the stories we found to be highly super relevant in recent times. But there's so much else going on. We are really pleased to have our featured guest here with us here today. So let's join in. Let's welcome in Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with Let's Talk Supply Chain and Ships. Hey, Sarah, how you doing?
Hey guys. Hey everyone. How's it going?
Hello.
2 thumbs up. It's great to reconnect. I enjoy all your social media, but yesterday you were laying out your week that will be this week. And as I was reading that, Sarah, I got worn out. I had to go take a breather.
I know. And I was like, last night I was like, I really need to get a good sleep tonight. And then this morning I woke up and I was like, oh, I really didn't get the sleep I needed. But yeah, no, there's a lot going on this week. And, happy Monday.
Happy Monday indeed. All right. So we're going to try to cover as much ground with you. I know you've got a lot of stuff going on in the next 20 minutes or so. But first off, for the 2 people that be watching this live stream that aren't familiar with Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, tell us a little about yourself.
2 people. Okay, so host and founder of Let's Talk Supply Chain. I have to say, lots of familiar faces. So just want to say hi to everybody there. So founder and host Let's Talk Supply Chain and CEO of Ships, which is our new technology platform, bringing together mid-market importers, exporters, and freight forwarders.
Awesome. And so Davin shares, I have no idea how she does it every week. Neither do we, David. Neither do we.
I don't know either.
All right.
I only have 1 coffee a day, just so everybody knows. 1 coffee a day.
All right. So, there's so much going on, not just in supply chain, but across the business world, of course.
Yeah.
But Sarah, at a high level, what are a couple of things that you're tracking here lately?
There's so much. Like you said, there's just so much going on right now. I mean, between the ports in Sydney, Australia, being closed and some of the ocean carriers not stopping in there, to the seafarer crisis because of the pandemic. They've been on the boats for a really long time without any connectivity to families. And, it's becoming one of the problems or the challenges that our community is really getting around. I believe that there's a change.org out there to do some fundraising for them. So that's a big one. And then the one I saw this morning on The Hustle is, and I'm going to go back to what Jamin was talking about just a few minutes ago, because Domino's is killing it.
Pizza, yes.
That's Greg White's favorite brand of pizza too, I believe.
Oh yeah, we know that.
He's gonna kill me.
They were talking about the last mile delivery, and they were talking about how Domino's online orders are 75% of their business. I think for everybody else, it's only 10 to 15%. And it's because of all the minor changes that they've done minor, maybe major changes that they've made on their last mile, and how people are ordering their product and how they're delivering it. And so much more. They were saying that people can order Domino's through Slack and WhatsApp. I mean, if that doesn't change the game, I don't know what does.
Sarah, we spoke when we did the Super Trends in Supply Chain series. The 3 of us, you and me and Greg, got together and we were talking about whether you like Domino's pizza or not. Let's put that to the side for a second, because they have really been disrupting their own ways traditionally of going to market and what they offer consumers, and really just changing the game. And so it's good to hear. I wasn't familiar with some of these results you shared. That's good to hear. Leaders taking big, bold actions to try to deal in a terribly challenging year like 2020 is.
And I dig what you said there. They're disrupting some of their own. So they were doing this well, if you will, but it didn't keep, good is the enemy of great, is the saying, right? And so it didn't keep them from continuing to push and get better and really lead the way in final mile delivery, which is interesting that they could be viewed as a leader in that space.
Yeah.
Well,
Put.
and it's interesting too, because if you think about your own business and supply chain, and I don't think we do this enough where we think outside of the industry and what companies are doing and how they're bettering themselves and how they're bettering a different part of supply chain for themselves and for the consumer and what that actually means to their business. I mean, they're spiking. There's been a couple of pizza chains that have gone bankrupt during the pandemic, and they are just, soaring. And so it just goes to show that we can take a look at other industries and what they're doing and how they're delivering to their consumer and think about how we're doing that in our own businesses.
Well said, as always, Sarah. As an aside, whenever I think of Domino's, I think of are both of y'all familiar with the sitcom from the early 90s called Coach with Hayden T. Fox, right? Or Craig T. Nelson, who played Hayden Fox in the series. Okay. Well, there was a sitcom where Luther, his assistant coach, ordered a pizza, and he would get the pizza free if it didn't get there delivered in 30 minutes. Right. So he was having the coach and the whole staff hide in his apartment, and the delivery guy was, "I know you're in there, Luther. I know you're in there. You do this every time." Because he was going to get that free pizza. That will forever be linked to Domino's and the Noid and everything else in my mind. All right, so Sarah, I know you've got some big news. Real quick, before Jamin asks you a few additional questions, let's share a few comments here. So, Kelvin, greetings from Zambia. So great to have you here, Kelvin, with us via LinkedIn. Greetings to you as well. Let's see here. John Buglino with Optessa. Go to where your customers are. Well played, Domino's. Good stuff there. Professor Mohib says, "Hey, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, I voted for you as Global Women's Supply Chain Leader in a recent survey."
Me too.
a lot of fans here, Sarah. I wanted to share one other comment. Oh, here we go. Of course, our friend Demo down in Panama is here. Hope this finds you well, Demo. And I think it was you and Demo got together for a coffee chat a few weeks back. Really enjoyed that conversation here. All right. So let's keep driving. So, Jamin, let's talk about some big news that Sarah's got cooking up.
Yes, Sarah, you had, Scott had referred to your post about a heavy week ahead. Highlight some of these events. What exciting things are coming up that we should be paying attention to?
So this week I'm on 3 different continents in 3 different conferences, which is a little crazy, but because of the pandemic and doing it virtually, well, I can do it, right? So tomorrow morning, I'm kicking it off with Daniel Stanton and Martha Lumatete over at the Supply Chain Tech Conference. And they're doing it a little bit differently. So each panelist is presenting for 15 minutes. And in between that, we get 15 minutes to talk as a panel and talk with the audience about what they presented on, which I thought was really cool. It makes the session a little bit longer. I think it's just under 2 hours, but that starts at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then I've got Thoughts and Coffee at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, where we are announcing some big, big things. We've recently just launched something, and I can't wait to let everybody know about it. And then at 10:40, I am at the Women in Supply Chain Conference with Radu and Katya talking about supply chain talent. And that's just tomorrow. So,
that's just a Tuesday.
So Wednesday, I'm back at the Supply Chain Tech Conference talking about ships because I'm a panelist at that point. And I also am doing a 15-minute session at the Women in Supply Chain event that day as well. And that's at 9:40. But I am doing it a little bit differently than all the other sessions. So it's cool.
Love it. All right. So can it ever be thoughts and mimosas or thoughts and Bloody Marys, or it must be coffee?
You know what? I thought about it. I really need my coffee at that point. Maybe a mimosa at noon. Maybe I'm going to start doing something at noon.
All right. Well, I love it.
I like it.
And I love the conversations that you're either leading or facilitating, going back to the Kraft Heinz story, breaking down these silos, breaking down any barriers that prevents us having real talk and real dialogue. Really, that's a lot of heavy lifting needs to happen. All right. So quick aside here, Aaron took, well, I'm going to read Aaron's comment here because I don't want to cover Sarah up. So Aaron took a shot at Pratish's question, right? he says his personal thought on answering that question is that a leadership mindset shift is necessary. Too often, risk assessment mitigation has taken a back seat to optimization and cost reduction. Unfortunately, risk mitigation is not cheap up front, but yields long-term rewards, nor is it an exact science. It is easy to show how a new cost reduction measure will concretely reduce costs, increase throughput, or otherwise yield positive value for an organization. And he continues there, but it's cut off a bit. Good stuff there from Aaron. And that was, Jamin, as you put it, it is a fun question to answer because it is about change and positive change and real change, which will make the industry better. However, it is also a deep question, right? Because especially for these real large global organizations like a Kraft Heinz. So Sarah, any initial comments or when you heard a question like that, what immediately came to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we are geared up. We've already been through a lot of change. We are geared up for even more change. I mean, I think that's going to be the one consistent factor. I think when we hear about companies looking at their manufacturing and where they're going to manufacture and if they're going to bring some of that back locally, consumers aren't going to change the fact that they still want to buy the product at a certain price.
Yep.
And so when we're taking a look at all of the risks, that's definitely one that we need to consider. And the only way to do that, if we're going to move the manufacturing around and you're not going to be able to get the costs as they were previously, is to look at technology. And how is technology going to be able to keep those costs down for you and have the consumers still buying your products? So, you know, I think that supply chain professionals are tasked with just so much right now. And there's so much to consider. There's so much to think about. I think we really just need to keep having conversations, you know, as leaders and professionals, and just see where everybody's at and what people are doing and what they're not doing, what they're considering, what they're not, you know, because part of that risk mitigation too is even a tax strategy. If you're going to move your manufacturing or your total landed costs, or you're going to look at, you know, a free trade zone, let's say in Panama, or you're going to look at expanding into Latin America. There's so much to consider right now.
I think that's such a clutch point you make. We can get accidentally caught up sometimes in just the headline aspect of it, of these changes and different things that are related to the COVID pandemic. And while that's a huge accelerant, there are so many other pieces to that, the supply chain puzzle that were already in motion or going in motion. You even mentioned tax strategies and things like that. So much to consider and adapt to. That it's a fun opportunity, but it is a huge opportunity.
Huge.
Well said.
Huge.
All right. So our friend Jeff, supply chain is the business Miller, says technology drives productivity. Productivity gains offset higher onshore costs. Good stuff there. And you've got a bunch of folks ringing the bell for some of what both of y'all had shared. So
Awesome.
Good stuff. All right. So let's keep driving. Sarah, I don't know, given the big news you've got, is it tomorrow or Wednesday?
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Any foreshadowing you would like to do there?
Well, I think what I can leave you with, I had this written down and now I don't know where it's me and my note taking. I've got notes everywhere.
I'm with you.
We are going to be trying to bridge the gap between supply chain management students, corporations. We're also going to be taking women in supply chain to the next level. And we're going to be using a platform to be able to do that, which is creative. It's going to let students get involved and take over. And yeah, that's a little bit of it. And then
awesome.
I didn't mention this before, but we've got a diversity show coming up soon too, which I'm really excited about.
Awesome.
Great.
We need as much of that as we can get. You know, we often hear a lot, and I think all three of us have talked about this, you know, see it and be it. Right. We've heard a lot of feedback from some of our listeners of the need to really spotlight all, you know, that are leading supply chains and making it happen, so that it really helps inspire, you know, our elementary students. Right. And so I appreciate what you do. I know Jamin and I both appreciate what you do in that regard, Sarah.
I appreciate what you guys are doing and just for having me on today.
Well, it is neat to. I had to go through, I think, 2 agents and an admin and a whole department to get you booked, but we did it. All right. So as we start to wind down our time with Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, what else, before we make sure our audience knows how to connect with you, what else, what did you jump out of bed thinking, especially in light of this week that you've got? I mean, what really, gets you going?
My first thought was I need some more sleep.
Yeah.
No, but really, I mean, all kidding aside, it's really just about, I don't know, being out there in the community. I'm really excited, for what I'm doing and how I'm featuring somebody in the woman in supply chain side. The supply chain tech conference, being involved with them, they're giving portions of their proceeds to the United Nations, I believe. And so it's just organizations like that and being a part of that and being a part of this new, type of panel tomorrow morning, which is crazy. And so, just getting up and knowing that I was going to see you guys today and get to interact with the community on here. I've got a couple of podcasts this week, a woman in supply chain episode that I'm recording on Thursday, and I just love it. I have a lot of fun, just talking to folks and interacting and just being a part of the community. So
awesome. We do too.
Great.
Well, plus, Sarah, you and I get to hang out with the most positive guy in the business with Jamin, right?
That's right.
It's easy to be positive when hanging out with people like you and the folks in the comments.
Oh, that's going back to what you were saying earlier. And Sarah, I'm sure you have the same appreciation. These comments and the knowledge they drop in just a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds, typing something in, and the camaraderie and fellowship, really, that is part of the secret sauce of this whole journey. So really appreciate our audience. All right. So Jamin, we want to make sure that folks know how to connect, right?
Yes. So Sarah, how can people stay connected with you and be tuned in for your big announcement tomorrow?
Well, so LinkedIn, go and follow or be part of the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page. Connect with me personally on LinkedIn. So Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. You can go to our website, letstalksupplychain.com. I've also got the SHIPS website now, which is SHIPS, that's SHIPZ or Z, depending on where you're located, .com. And otherwise, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of the social media platforms.
You're going to kill me. Where can they find you on TikTok?
Well, you might need to tune into the live stream tomorrow.
Love that. Sarah, always a pleasure. I'm really excited, not only about all the cool initiatives you've got cooking up with Let's Talk Supply Chain, but to hear all the progress that SHIPS has made. New website is just the tip of the iceberg. That's really it's inspiring, and it's neat to track it. So always a pleasure to sit down with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I just hope everybody has an amazing week this week.
Awesome. Sarah, safe virtual travels, and we'll see you next time here on Supply Chain Now.
I'm going to need it.
Jamin, always fun and refreshing to reconnect with Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, right?
Absolutely. A true leader in our industry.
Agreed. All right. So you heard Sarah talk about some new projects, new series, new content, all kinds of exciting stuff. Well, you've got a little stuff that you've been cooking up now for, I don't know, a month and some change. Why don't we talk more about logistics and beyond? Tell us, Jamin.
Yes. I am just so passionate and so grateful for our industry because of the people. And I really hope that listeners of this podcast series pick up on that, because me aside, and I hope to not detract from some of the awesome people we'll have on, it really gets into the personalities, the mindsets, and the thought processes of the real leaders in our industry. So there are so many great ways to chop up the X's and O's, or how to look at future state of supply chain and that type of deal. What I'm really wanting to address very specifically in logistics and transportation is a peek into the personality and mindset of these amazing people that we get to know. So, some of the questions may seem like fluff at first glance, like what was your favorite food as a child, or your favorite toy as a child, or a memory, a lesson learned from your high school years that you apply now. But I'm finding that you really get people to open up, and they start to share some just very base level knowledge that, we can all then apply. And what an awesome opportunity for us to get to apply some lessons learned and some insights from some of these great people that we have on, like you in the episode where I got to interview you and learn about your granddad. And so there's just a lot in there. I'm having too much fun.
Well, it comes across in the content. It comes across in the conversations. And I've really enjoyed them. So looking forward, I think we've got one more already recorded, ready to go to be released. And then you've got kind of the next part of your schedule cooking. So good stuff there, logistics and beyond with Jamin. And so David asked, and David, I'm sorry if it's Davin or David, I am not sure. I'm bad about mispronouncing names, and memory will tell you that. So he asked, what happened to the or die on the tail end of Adapt and Thrive, Jamin?
That is, thank you for asking. So that is my my positive. The adapt or die, while it's true, that just seems so ominous to me. And the Adapt and Thrive came about just for myself, almost my self-talk of I had trouble during a period of time of seeing opportunities, and change was hard. But if you look at it as like, hey, if I change or adapt or pivot, however, whatever cool way you want to say it, this next move can lead to me thriving, absolutely crushing it, instead of like, oh, if I don't move, I'm going to die. So that just came about from what resonates with my own mindset. But both are true.
All right. So I'm going to pull the curtain back just a smidge. Jamin, I think your microphone is catching your collar a bit. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. So, hey, we keep it real and frank here at Sapache now, right?
I'm bouncing around.
Well, along those lines, Nick says his smile is contagious. I agree. I agree with you. It really, in a tough year like 2020, it is so important, I would say, to be around positive people that really, keep your mindset where it needs to be. And that's what Jamin brings to the table in spades. So, Nick, I agree with you.
Thank you,
Davin gives me a little bit of feedback, and he says it is Davin and not Davin. So thank you very much, Davin. I will keep that in mind. Aaron shares, Aaron's been dropping some serious knowledge here on the live stream. I might owe him a consulting invoice or something. I'm not sure. Aaron says, hey, getting to know people is a critical component of good leadership. Knowing people beyond just their profession builds connections and trust. Good point there.
Well said.
And then Claudia had a great point, and she was kind of echoing something you said, Jamin. Leadership attributes are truly being tested by COVID. I think, Claudia, well put as always, and great to have you here. I think, of course, the pandemic is certainly testing leadership in ways and testing probably new muscles that haven't been exercised when it comes to leadership. But I would also add, I think the environment, the current environment, and that's related to pandemic. It's also related to political back and forth. There's a level of contentiousness. I'm making up that word there, Jamin, that I think also is posing a big challenge to leadership. So, Jamin, any additional thoughts?
Yeah, not to oversimplify it, but to your point, there's a lot going on, even outside of COVID, and that's not to make light of it in any form or fashion.
Right.
But there's a lot going on, and that's on a worldwide scale. So leadership, while always important, it's times like these where leaders. I think a neat thing that we're seeing is people that maybe didn't view themselves as leaders before, or may not be leaders in title at the moment, are doing some gigantic things and really showing us what true leadership is. And so it's really bringing out the best in some.
Agreed. Aaron says he's got very reasonable rates, talking about the consulting invoices. 11 years active Army. I learned a thing or two about leadership. Aaron, we'd love to get you on Veteran Voices. So shoot Amanda a quick note, and we'll see if we can't make that happen. Would love to pick your brain. So good stuff, and glad you're here with us today. Grow with Tyrone must be a YouTube channel. Great to have you here. Knowing individuals beyond. If you're paying attention, you discover attributes that can assist the individual's growth as well as the organization. Agreed there. Great.
But you gotta listen up, pay attention. trying to bring a little Greg.
A little tip of the hat to Greg White. John Buglino says sink or swim time for most around the world. Yeah, good stuff there, John. And then our friend Jeff Miller says, Jamin, looking forward to this growing series. Your industry knowledge and interaction style is going to draw out some great insights from your guests. Agreed. You do bring a natural curiosity to the conversations and really enjoy that. All right. So as we begin to wrap this episode of The Buzz, it's all about, one of the things we try to do is give resources, especially inexpensive resources, to our audience. Right, Jamin?
Yes. So important.
All right. So let's, hey, Jamin, anything that you've learned in retail, think about all that retail industry has taught you in, say, the last, 20 years. Can you picture that?
Yes, I got it in my mind. I'm picturing myself hanging out at the mall when that used to be a thing.
Yes, arcade. Well, picture all of that, then grab it with your right hand and throw it out the window. Just because that's the world we live in right now. Current rules, long-held rules and standards and approaches all of a sudden are broken and to some degree irrelevant. Now, of course, we're being I'm exaggerating a little bit, but so much has changed in the world of retail. And so we've got an upcoming webinar, Jamin, where we're going to be featuring a couple business leaders that have been in the trenches driving transformation. Jeff Cashman is with GreyOrange, right? You were talking, the bots are coming on the front end of today's show. Hey, GreyOrange, they have been deploying robotics and automation left and right? They're extremely busy trying to. One of the things is fueling e-commerce and all those fulfillment centers and warehouses, right? We're pairing Jeff.
What I love that Jeff does, sorry to interrupt, is he speaks about it in a very a simple way that even someone like myself can understand. Doesn't overcomplicate it, so it's really easy to learn from him.
Yep, agreed. And he keeps it real. So I love that about Jeff. I love what you shared, and also love just the transparency and the frankness you get with Jeff Cashman. And he's been there, done it. So Jeff will be joining us. We're going to pair him with Cindy Lago, who leads supply chain consulting for Capgemini. So obviously, especially technology, digital transformation, she's been involved in leading a lot of those initiatives. So we're going to pair Cindy and Jeff, and we're going to have an hour of really good stuff, best practices, insights, perspective on new market, new mindset, especially with the emphasis on retail. I'm ready to do that now. I'm ready to learn. Let's go ahead and kick it off at the top of the hour. How about that, Jamin?
What an opportunity to learn from a couple people there. Are we sure an hour's enough? I'm going to be bummed when the hour's over.
Never. I've always been a big fan of the long form. I'm probably one of the small minority in the digital content space. But to your point, I think when I as we lead webinars, I think one of the litmus tests that I always look for, and we've done over 300 across the years, is a really active Q&A session, right? Where whoever's made the presentation, they have triggered something, right? And there are some of those Q&A sessions where we can barely, do it in an hour 15, hour 30. So I bet my hunch is that this session on September 30th is going to be along those lines, Jamin.
It's all about engagement. I'm with you.
Agreed. All right, a couple comments here I want to share. Nick says it's the people that make logistics. Nick, you've got a bunch of kindred spirits here. And I would go take it a step further, Jamin. It's the people that make global supply chain work. I mean, despite all the technology gains, which will continue to be implemented across the world, the people drive global supply chains, right?
Absolutely. Nick is spot on, as he usually is.
Sylvia, back on the leadership conversation. So Sylvia says, spot on. I see where new leaders are rising to the occasion. Simultaneously, I see the wolves in sheep clothing, aka non-qualified individuals in leadership roles that are now falling off the radar.
No place to hide anymore.
No place to hide. Jamin, you're absolutely right. And along those lines, Claudia said, excellent point. We're used to looking for leadership from the top. Now leadership can be observed or not at every level and be ready to act when you don't see it, or better yet, when you spot high potential, right, Jamin?
Oh, spoken from a true leader. That is a great way to look at it.
Agreed. Nirfad, great to have you here. We have missed you here lately. You always, not only do you know a ton about freight and transportation, you name it, but Jamin, he is our house comedian.
He's great, hilarious.
And he keeps us on our toes. Josue says, the positivity is certainly contagious. I personally wake up much more excited to tackle my days recently. You guys make a difference at a personal level. Man.
Wow, that's huge. Thank you, Josue. That's huge.
That makes my day.
I take that lightly. Yeah. Wow. Spoken from such a hard worker with a beautiful mindset. Thank you.
Agreed. So I was kind of going back and forth on whether or not I wanted to share this item, Jamin, but along those lines, I think I feel compelled to share it because I think it can serve as a challenge and a call to action. So I'm not going to name any names, but over the weekend, there was a veteran that's been a part of some of our live streams, and he'd wrapped up a long role recently and was kind of putting some irons in the fire for his next opportunity. And he posted his resume over the weekend. And so we shared that here at Supply Chain Now with friends. And look, if nothing else, to help people make connections and further the network, right? You never know where that leads.
Absolutely.
And so people responded and they really shared and connected. And in fact, I got a note yesterday from a network colleague that said one of his network colleagues reached out and was setting up an interview with this gentleman, with this veteran. And, we all have so much going on, but along the lines of what Josue was sharing and so many others, if we just call time out every once in a while and just make those small gestures, it takes 30 seconds these days, not even, to share something, right? And we've all been, raise your hand if you haven't been. And I mean, we've all been there, right?
Absolutely.
Trying to nail our next deal or trying to land our next opportunity or whatever it is. We try to do it as often as we can, but really we should own those opportunities and really deliberately look for ways to engage and support and, be positive, right, Jamin?
Absolutely. And a network is something to be shared, not hoarded and kept yourself. That is a great way to look at it.
Yeah, good stuff there. All right, so a couple comments, and then we're going to share one more event coming up. Gary Smith says he's registered, looking forward to the New Market, New Mindset webinar. We have just gained an esteemed member to the audience, so great to have you, Gary. Let's see here. Sylvia says she learned from a snake eater what true leadership means. So,
there's a story there.
There is certainly a story there. That when I read that, what comes to mind is this old analogy is you can't expect to soar with the eagles by day if you hang out with the buzzards by night. So I don't know if that's relevant or not, but it comes to mind. Let's see here. David says, that's awesome. Appreciate what you did there. No doubt he does too. Good on you, Supply Chain Now. Hey, it's I appreciate that, but it's on all of us, right? This community that's here, that's across global supply chain. We read off some of the audience members from different parts of the world, Jamin. That is really rewarding to have a wide variety of folks represented here, right?
It sure is.
Okay, so a lot of good stuff taking place here. Let's share one more event before we wrap it up here, Jamin. And while I bring this to the stream, any final thoughts on connectivity, on giving forward, or on leadership here before we segue?
I'm still even thinking about what Claudia Fried, who, like I mentioned, is a true leader, what she said. And it's just such a time to be ready, be prepared. And while there is definitely a lot of hardship, very real hardships, not trying to minimize that at all, there are some real opportunities, and going to be, as there are all types of changes that are forever going to go on, that if you stay ready and stay in that mind frame and associating with ones like Claudia Fried, that you'll be ready. There's going to be opportunities for all of us. And so that's the good side of it if you're ready.
Love that. And you got to be ready, and you got to be willing to walk through the door, get out of your comfort zone, and put new experiences in a headlock, right?
I like that.
So, hey, wrestling always comes back to every conversation, right? All right. And it's at this point that Greg would usually do a Ric Flair. Woo!
Yes. Somewhere out
right.
in the open seas. I hope he's doing that.
That is right. Okay. So let's talk about a new event that has been added to our fold here. Jamin, we are really pleased to be partnering with the Association for Manufacturing Excellence, AME. And it's all centered on AME Toronto 2020, October 27th through the 29th. It's a big virtual event focused on the best of the best in the world of manufacturing. Greg and I are going to be leading a supply chain focused panel, which includes, amongst others, AME CEO Kimberly Humphrey. So we invite our audience to join us. Now, the cool thing about AME is we've been collaborating with them for years, at least I have. And one of the cool events they set up, Jamin, probably 6 or 7 years ago that we played a small part in, is everyone's heard of Chick-fil-A, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, think of the supply chain and the operation behind Chick-fil-A, right? And not the delicious sandwich. Well, they've got at the time it wasn't quite as public, but nowadays it's public, and I think the company touts it. They've got an innovation center called the Hatch, and they do a variety of things in this center. It's really cool. But amongst them is they've got a drive-through where they'll actually experiment with new approaches. They're under a roof with the car and the whole 9 yards. But AME set up a tour of the Hatch years ago, and really to be able to put your eyes on real, tangible, practical innovation, not the buzzword, not the cliche, but a company that gets it, in your words, Jamin, and is really serious about serving that consumer like none other.
Wow, that's neat. And I love energize your journey. I really dig that phrase.
Agreed. So y'all check this out. We've got the links for AME Toronto 2020 in the show notes. Looking forward to the supply chain, the kind of a breakout session with these leaders here, and we would invite you to join us there. All right. So Jamin, gosh, what a full episode here today. Here we go. Speaking of AME, Jenny Froome is asking if anyone remembers Dr. Sherry Ford, who was a legendary figure in continuous improvement and also in manufacturing. Jenny says that she was an amazing woman and very proud of the organization. So unfortunately, I think Dr. Ford passed away a few years back. She led and I'm not going to do her justice, but the little bit I know about her is she led a manufacturing organization here in the state of Georgia, and really invited a lot of folks. I mean, she really fueled continuous improvement discussions kind of outside the four walls, right? So huge leader in the industry, and I think she passed way before her time. So Jenny, I do somewhat remember at least my small interactions with Dr. Ford, and great to have you here. Good on AME, and also good on SAPIX, so which Jenny's part of the leadership team. All right, so Jamin, we have we've come. What have we not talked about here today on today's episode?
I think we've hit it all, from pizza to leadership to robots. I mean, what's left?
Pizza, leadership, and robots. What an interesting visual that brings. Before we sign off, what was your favorite component? Something you said, something you heard, something that you saw shared via the comments. What was one of your favorite parts from today?
Yeah, I'd already mentioned Claudia Fried's comment on leadership. Sarah Barnes-Humphrey shared something that I really enjoyed of when we were speaking about pizza delivery, leading the way in some aspects of final mile delivery. And just to really be cognizant of looking outside of our industry or even outside of ourselves and looking to other people, industries, businesses for ideas on how we can make ourselves or our business better, or borrow from things and apply it to what we're doing. So I really appreciate that comment. I think that's a super beneficial way to look at it. Love
that. And would love to just open up the can of the next hour and continue talking leadership. It is such a special time in global history where leadership cannot be assumed. It's got to be, deeds, not words. So, but appreciate what you do in your neck of the woods, and great to collaborate with you here on Supply Chain Now. I'm going to share one more thing, and then we're going to wrap. So folks, if you enjoy business and through a historical lens, we've got this new series called This Week in Business History. Now, it's brief. I'm not the best storyteller in the world, but I love to do it. And we got a little bit of news over the weekend that really made my day, at least. And in this day and age, in the information age, where you've got over 1 million podcasts, I'm very proud to share that according to Chartable, This Week in Business History, which is only, Jamin, we only have probably less than 10 episodes in already been published. It has hit the podcast leadership chart in the U.S. for business news. That sounds like a new series. Number 87 was what it ranked over the weekend in that business news category here for the U.S. So, when you work hard to put out content and share what you find to be interesting and newsworthy or buzzworthy, and you get feedback from the market along those lines, it is incredibly rewarding. And it comes back to this wonderful audience we have here that we learn so much from. And I love each of these Monday sessions because we get to rub elbows with some of the best people in the world. And those are the folks powering supply chain. So a little bit of good news. And I try to be careful about self-promotion because I'm not geared like that. But that's a bunch of hard work that the teams put into that new series. And we got some good feedback over the weekend. That's great. That's not surprising that it's well received, but very cool. It is very cool. And enjoy doing this with you. I appreciate you filling in today on the Supply Chain Buzz for Greg White. I was about to say the one and only Greg White, but really it's also the one and only Jamin A. So really enjoyed what you do to the audience. Thanks so much. I mean, y'all really, y'all are the North Star in all of this, and our interactions and the feedback we get and the guests that come on and share, along the lines of what Sarah did today. Man, that's part of the secret of life. So thanks so much. Along those lines, and on behalf of Jamin and our entire team here at Supply Chain Now, we're going to challenge you just like we challenge ourselves. Hey, do good, call a timeout, take those simple steps that helps people out, do good, give forward, and be the change that's needed. And on that note, we'll see